All right, you wanna?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and, this meeting is in regards to the Boyd Andrew lease renewal, so I would start it off with where we need to go.
Well,
Remember,
I can kick this off because I'm the one that threw up the gauntlet, if you will, or the flags. Ginger had sent out email a bit ago about Boyd Andrew lease coming up for renewal. And she provided me with a copy of the lease, and then looking at the lease, it had been renewed in 2016 for a 10-year term. And under the terms of renewal, it was renewed for 10 years, and then it said thereafter, Boyd Andrew shall have the option to extend the term of this lease for an additional 10 years. If Boyd Andrew chooses to do so, the renewal provisions of paragraph 3 of the lease shall control. So, of course, Steve, being Steve and doing the lawyer thing, goes to paragraph 3. And paragraph 3 of the original lease says that basically there's the provision for 2 renewal terms, but the problem that came in is it on the second renewal, which this current renewal would have been. It said that if Boyd Andrew wanted to renew it for an additional 10 years, that they shall give the county at least 24 months written notice of its intent to renew for, I guess, what would be the third 10-year term. Well, obviously, when I looked at that, I said, well, that doesn't work. And I also started going through the lease and the main lease document, and there is a whole bunch of material in here which is just simply not applicable anymore.
I went through it.
Yeah, it had to do with construction of the building and things to that nature. And there's provisions that are tied to the bonding for the building, that if the bonding were to fail, then certain contingencies come into place. In other words, you guys don't pay your bill. And so my thought in talking with Corey and the commissioners about this was, I'm thinking we probably need to consider drafting a new lease agreement. I am perfectly willing to do that. This term of this lease runs through the end of July, so we got a tad bit of time. Where are you guys ending with your bonding? How much?
We should be making so the way the bond works is the department makes the bond payment for the year by August 31st of each year. And then throughout the rest of that fiscal year, we pay it back they withhold that amount of money through our invoicing. The final payment is supposed to be made August 31st of 2026.
So this August.
So this year, I'm waiting for, so the department has gone through 3 or 4 different financial controllers since this happened. So, and most what we're finding is they all look at it and go, I didn't even know what this was. So I'm still waiting on confirmation from the current chief fiscal person, but MFFA seems to be in agreement. My bond attorney seems to be in agreement, and US Bank, the holder, seems to be in agreement. So, this year is a little different in that part of the bond requirement is we had reserve funds built up, and so what's supposed to happen is that US Bank will take our reserve funds out of this final payment, and then the department will pay the rest, and then we pay the department back for the rest.
Correct.
The difference should be fairly minimal. We're under $50,000, whereas it's been $350,000 a year. So we have a little over $300,000 in that reserve fund that they should be taking first, and then the department will pay the remainder, and then we'll pay the department back.
So it shouldn't be an issue related to a new lease. Shouldn't be included in a new lease. Right.
That's what I'm thinking. Because if this is all going to be said and done by August 31, that's a month out from, say, if a new lease is entered into on August 1. we can couch that around. Yeah, cause that'll get rid of a whole bunch of what's in here. Now, the other issue, and Corey and I addressed this yesterday, and it's there are, how do I describe this? If you folks were to discontinue your use of the building, say we want to get rid of it, we're out of the business of treating meth addicted females, or we're out of the business entirely. And there's provisions in this current contract which discuss kind of various options for what's to happen to the building. And everything from the county will purchase the building for fair market value. Actually, what under state law, what the county would have to do in that situation is have an appraisal done of it, which may not be the same. It's probably pretty close to fair market value, but it's probably the same thing by a different name. All the way to a fourth provision, I think, Corey, if we read it correctly, says that you'll give the building to the county. So I think that is an area, and that may not be something that can be answered here today, because you may have to take it back to your board
Definitely.
as to what happens in the event, which I don't foresee happening, but in the event that Boyd Andrew decides to get out of the business, what happens to the building?
Mhm.
Because you basically have a structure that is owned by Boyd Andrew sitting on real property that's owned by the county.
Mhm.
So, and I think where we were with that, just for reference,
I think page 8.
Yeah.
It's the surrender. and
yes, it's in paragraph 16 on page 8, surrender and termination. And it has first favored potential use, second favored potential use, third and fourth potential use of the facility at the expiration of the lease. So there's, that just needs to be cleared up. And I think it may be easier, rather than having options, to just say, if Boyd Andrew ceases to use the facility, period, then this is what is to happen. And certainly I cannot recommend to the commissioners that via contract, the county is under some obligation to buy this building
Mhm.
if Boyd Andrew were to get out of it, because it's kind of like, what are we gonna do with it?
Well, and I think it sounds like from what I read in there, it sounds like that all came from the first thing where it was all, there was money owed on it.
Yes.
Somebody would have had to do something with it.
Built from the ground up.
So I think that
And
was
that-
part of where all of that comes from.
And that's probably why it was written in there, Craig. But my view is it's not needed anymore.
So,
Well, and this bond is a moral obligation bond, so the state signed off that if we couldn't, for whatever reason, fulfill the contracts or do what we needed to do to pay this off, that they were on the hook for the remainder of it. So, which is not something the state will ever consider doing again.
I was wondering how that.
But it never did come back to bite them, so great. So I mean, I'm happy to look at that versus, options 1 through 4 and have us, I mean, I think, and I would bring my board in on this, obviously, and probably our attorney as well to work with you on it.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure it's fair, whatever, it's good for all. I mean, all I could think of at this point when I was reading that is, gosh, wouldn't it be something where it would say like the county would have the first option to purchase, and if they didn't want to, then we can do something
Yeah,
else.
we could put a reference.
Or, you would have to approve whoever it's sold to since you own the land and, those kinds of things. Maybe that would be a cleaner way. That way you're not obligated, that kind of a thing. I have no intentions of pulling out of the Elkhorn Treatment Center for any reason. However, it's just
Please
fair to know that, with our contract up, it's going to go back out for bid next year. And so if there are competitors for this program, I may not win. I mean, I've won the last two, but it's, and the interesting piece about this contract or the laws that surround this is that it does not have to be operated by a nonprofit, whereas pre-releases do by state law. And the department's already trying to kind of figure out the way around that too. So I think they may be open for some for-profit businesses. So there is some unknowns with that. And one of the things that when we first talked, I think I gave 24 months notice this time too, that this is the intent. However, with the RFP coming up, I know way of knowing what's going to happen with that. The state is, we are now on our second RFP for pre-release. That should never have happened that way. It's taken 2 years for them to award contracts on that. So I don't even know if we will know before this contract's up, or if they're going to offer me an extension while they figure that out, or it's just kind of a crapshoot at this point when you're dealing with the procurement process. So the other piece of it would be, no, the intent is obviously to stay here and remain in business. It may be out of our hands through the procurement process next. It will go. Technically, it says June 1st of 2027, but I have a feeling it's going to go through June 30th of 2027.
How long are if you receive the contract, typically how long are the contracts for?
This one was 20 because of the bond. They will no longer do that. It's generally 7.
It's an odd number.
I'm sorry.
7's an odd number.
7's a what number?
Odd number.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's because of like going through the legislative process and the new bienniums and things like that, but it's kind of been a new state standard of no more than 7 years. And then we, either 1 year or 2 year contract terms where we negotiate based on what happens in the legislature.
Well.
Yeah, we'd much prefer the 20, but obviously that's
Yeah.
not going to happen again. There's no appetite for it.
With that, I think there probably needs to be well, let me back up. There could be 2 options here. One is an option for a short-term lease to accommodate getting you through this RFP process. The second option would be to continue with like the 10-year lease term. I think the statute has changed, and I'll have to double check, but I think the counties now can lease up to 20 years. It used to be 10 years. I'll double check that, but whatever the period is, if it's something more than a short-term lease, we would probably need a provision in here that says that if Boyd Andrew is not awarded a renewal of the contract, then this happens. I don't know what this is. We'll need to figure that out. But that's gonna have to be put in here. Okay.
Do you have any idea why the county didn't just sell that or give that to you when this all happened? Do you have was there a restriction on the land or?
I have no
No
idea.
idea.
I'm sorry. I could attempt to call my predecessor, but his memory is
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit more faulty like the rest of us anymore. I could certainly ask him and see if he recalls why, but I don't know.
Okay, that just seemed odd that we put a building on a lease.
Was the county
I wonder-
interested in potentially selling that land?
Well, I don't know.
mean,
That's what.
We're interested in selling it. They gotta be interested in buying it.
Right, that's why the question comes up, why didn't they just sell it to them and let them have their own thing out there and we could get out of it? Maybe there's a restriction on that property we got from the state. The Dana might know, or Tom
I
Harrington.
think all
might know.
those restrictions were lifted.
Were they?
I think so.
Okay,
Well,
that might be
That's
something we
a
look at.
Family Dollar.
if we can Gift it to them or sell it to them for a little or nothing. I'm not sure how that works. But
I think that's the.
Well,
thing.
yeah, we'll have to look at that because, again, harken back to, we do have the ability to sell county real property. But there may be sideboards around it with respect, do we have to sell it for appraised value?
Fair market value, yeah.
If it's because it's going to a nonprofit, does that bring things in? I mean, we had with Whitehall, that little sliver of land down there that we had that specific provision of state law that allowed it to be just given to Whitehall under the condition that it's used as park land for at least 5 years or something like that. I'd have to research that and find out if it's even a viable option. I mean, that's
Yeah.
obviously something that Boyd Andrew would need to look at. And if it is something where we were obligated under state law to sell it for fair market value, appraised value, that may be more shekels than Boyd Andrew wants to shell out.
Yeah.
We would definitely have to look and see what we're talking about number wise and what
Yeah.
we can afford and how that would work. I'm not gonna say it's necessarily off the table or not an option. I do have a couple of board members that were here when Elkhorn opened back then, and I have a board meeting tomorrow, so I'm gonna try to see if anybody maybe remembers why this happened the way it did.
Yeah.
My guess could be that it was, it was brand new programs. They were something that had never been tried before. We had no idea if it was going to be successful. The state didn't know either. The county didn't know either. Maybe it was let's see how this flies. And now we're showing some really, good proven success rates on this. That maybe it's that's the only thing I can think of as to why it went that way. There's just too many unknowns with two brand new programs like this. It's never been tried before.
What's your potential competition for these RFP?
I could think of two potential for-profits. They're both out-of-state for-profit companies that have kind of been dabbling into some of this. One would be potentially CoreCivic, who has not really shown a lot of interest in treatment programs, really
They
only
run
prison
jails, don't
and
they?
correctional. Yeah. There's another one that has shown some interest in the pre-release procurement, which was they're called GEO. They're fairly similar to CoreCivic and that, but they have some community corrections. And I do think some treatment programs across the country, both very large, multi-billion-dollar for-profit companies. And while I think my RFP and my answers to my questions and what we do can hang with anybody's, what I can't do is absorb, a very small bed rate. Kind of a thing like a multi-billion-dollar company
Yeah.
might be able to do, just to kind of get rid of the competition and then work with them later. I mean, that's kind of, so that would be our biggest thing is, can we afford a bed rate that a large for-profit company could afford? I don't know. We don't have the results of the pre-release for-profit or pre-release RFP yet, so we don't know who even all applied, but we do know there's one that is not a current provider. But I don't know who it is. In our calls, offer calls and whatnot, this Geo company was the one that was showing up on those calls. And CoreCivic showed up at the previous RFP for those calls as well.
Well, Helen's name's on the 2006 original, so you should know. That was only 20 years ago, Helen.
Yeah, why is my name on there?
And I mean, we're willing to work with the county to do whatever you're comfortable with. I don't love the four options either. I think it puts us both on the hook in one way or another.
Well,
Potentially.
as I told Commissioner Kirsch yesterday, this is a 10-year lease or say maybe even a 20-year lease. The reality is that at least 4 of us, maybe even 5 of us sitting around this table are not going to be here. I suspect Miss Ginger will still be here.
That's a big guess.
But I tend to think of terms of in the future, and I don't want to put a future county attorney and a future commission board in the position of what the hell did these
Why did
guys
they do
mean
it
by
like
this
that?
contract, where we're in court arguing which of these provisions controls.
Right.
And so my thought is let's just have something that says if A happens, then B is the solution to it, whatever that is. I mean, I'm pretty sure the commission's open to quite a few options. I certainly am.
Okay.
Because like my comment about please don't close is you know, my view of anybody who can get in and get treatment and maybe have some success in that treatment is somebody that, yeah, my office is not dealing with on a revolving door basis.
Absolutely.
And other county attorneys' offices too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I mean, whatever next steps you would like, I will go to my board tomorrow. I will talk about, you know, see if anybody recalls and I can just email or whatever if you'd like
Great.
the group, and let them know what they recall. See what the, you know, what options we may be open to in 1 through 4 or something completely different. And then we can certainly look at it. You know, if this commission wants to look at renewing a lease just to get us through the RFP process. Again, we may be back here going, I need another year because the department hasn't decided or whatever the case may be. They generally are really good about, you know, keeping us going until the process is complete.
Well, you're also,
so I don't
also
know.
coming up on the legislative session year.
Right. Yeah.
And it seems that the wheels of the bureaucracy grind to a halt when everybody's up at the legislature and budget hearings with their hand out. Saying we need more money.
We have had some really excellent, you know, we've been doing some tours, had some excellent reception from both finance and policy committees. A lot of them then just lost on the primary. So, you know, we'll start over. We start over every 2 years and educate and show people what we do. And that's just part of the deal. But right now, I think there's a pretty wide support for what we're doing. I think the biggest unknown at this point is how the RFP process will go next year.
Sounds
And
good.
so even some sort of an out clause, if we don't get it, you know,
Well,
can this, you know,
and I guess I'm probably just gonna sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, which I'm a lawyer, so I'm allowed to do that. If I were your counsel advising you, I would say you guys probably need a contingency here if the contract is not renewed.
Mhm.
Because otherwise you're gonna be stuck with a building with overhead with no patients in it.
absolutely. So we will, I can certainly just go talk to my people and then kind of reach out to you all for next steps, whether that may be our, you know, our council and you getting together and coming up with a whole new
Who's your-
agreement.
who do you guys use?
Well, right now we use Amy Christensen for most of our items. She has been sometimes unavailable and sometimes there's some conflicts of interest because she also represents the Department of Corrections in certain areas. So she may end up having to refer me out, in which case I was using somebody at Crowley Fleck who then left Crowley Fleck and I'll need to find somebody new. But I always start with Amy Christensen. She's my go-to and then she.
Yeah, I think we're more than open to make this work however is
Okay,
best for you, even if we do a short term with a renewal every year or something until that.
until we can at least get to that 7-year
Whatever.
point. Yeah, it
Once
would,
you get past,
Maybe into perpetuity, waiting on the state.
but once you get your bonds paid off, this completely different. I mean, this whole.
yeah, I noticed a lot of these a lot of the options in here can just go away.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as that's taken care of and we no longer owe on the building. And, you know, and I'm not envisioning that there's an appetite for any kind of expansion or anything at this point where we would need another bond to pay for construction or anything. Not in the near future that I can tell. Anyway, I think, the governor's budget, you know, what we've been told is most of them are saying, you know, we're not asking for anything new this biennium.
Sure,
So,
good. I think that was all our questions, huh, Steve?
I don't know, unless Dan or Craig have anything more, Jason.
Well, that's about what I came up through with looking through it, so.
I think it'd be interesting to find out, if they ever wanted to buy the ground and how we can do that. It's one last thing,
Get
like,
it cleared up from the county.
Or if we could just,
Give it to 'em.
Give it to 'em.
yeah,
and as a nonprofit, we probably could some way. If it was a for-profit company,
Yeah,
We
for
might
profit,
change
we're in totally different territory.
so I think that could be an option. We just don't know.
And I don't know how the citizens of Jefferson County would react to giving a piece of land to a
Business.
for-profit corporation when a nonprofit who has been here for 20 years and been successful.
Yeah,
That might get us all out.
I just think that's another good thing, then we don't even have to bother with the lease when you guys are all gone.
right, it would just.
I'm thinking about you, Ginger.
Another thing I noticed in here, Amy, is the contract with the city. Did you see that at the end of this?
The fire,
Water and sewer.
water and sewer. Oh, yeah, I'm working currently on the fire one. There's a lot of changes that came from the city attorney on that one as well. So we're working through that one, but no, I haven't, I don't think I'll look back. I don't recall if I've heard anything from,
Fire.
oh, well, our water bill
Yeah.
just went up fairly significantly. So,
All the new stuff, yeah. That was
Yeah,
it,
you might-
it was all done originally was the police department, the sheriff's office,
All the emergency
the fire
services.
department, all of that was figured in when they did all.
But it's all volunteer fire.
It's still a contract though, because they're outside the city.
Yeah,
limits.
because they're,
Yeah, but
But yeah,
I
that-
thought volunteer fire departments, if there was a fire and it was in their area, they got on the truck and went and pulled out hoses.
they're not in
Not in
there,
their area.
Right.
they're in Corey's area.
Yeah, the public utilities.
Yeah.
I just looked at that and it was for 20 years as well, and it's.
I'm already in contact with the city administrator, so I'll make sure I bring this to his attention as well as we work our way through the fire protection.
Maybe nothing you have to renew because you're hooked up. I don't know if they care one way or the other, if they're even gonna catch it, but I just thought I'd bring it to your attention that that one was gonna expire too.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I will make sure we've been talking pretty regularly on the fire, so,
Okay. Good. Well, we'll work
Okay.
through this and get something
Okay.
doable for all of us.
okay. And would you prefer, do I email the entire group then if, or just one
You
of
wanna
you or,
communicate with Steve first, he can.
Okay.
Put out any information to us that he thinks
okay,
is necessary. That
Sounds
way
good.
We're not bogged down by all of it.
okay.
Is that okay? Straight to you.
And then I'm happy to come back and talk to the group on record, whatever
Sure.
we decide, whatever we discover, but in the meantime, I don't want to bombard your emails and with what we
Well, and
find
if
out.
there's, if it's just something that's you and I are sorting through. And we haven't come to a final, okay, time to submit it to the commission, then I don't need to middleman everything through them.
Right.
Sounds good.
Yep.
And I'll make sure that our attorney can represent us in this matter, and if not, I'll let you know who the
Okay.
new person will be as well. And we're willing to do whatever we can to make this work, I think, so I appreciate the partnership with this county and we'll be back this afternoon to give you details on all the good stuff we're doing.
There you go.
Perfect.
Very good,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.